And the Dakshinamurti outside has no Abhisheka. His favorite.
His favorite is no Abhisheka.
Yeah.
The birds got extra rice this morning.
Rice?
They've been getting rice every day, so
Oh.
since the cold weather came in.
Oh, thank you. Some nice sections are coming up. Oh, you too made it. Namaste. Oh.
More ice cream than I expected.
Yes. Shall we start then? Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karabhavahai Tejasvinnavadhitamastu ma Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We have finished section 4, which was aversion therapy. Very good. Very good, yeah. So, which was all about understanding Vairagya, and which was all about Vidambana. Vidambana means that which parades or masquerades in a particular way, which it is not, like a mockery of what is called one's livelihood. Okay? So the livelihood and all was just a mockery, because we talked about the transience of everything. And then after that we have section 5, which is Dharma Jignasa, the desire to know Dharma. And that whole section 5, we are going to skip. Because, for 2 reasons. We are going to skip that for 2 reasons. One is, the primary reason we are going to skip it is because the whole section is talking about things that are not that relevant right now, because it's talking about the force of pilgrimage, going to holy places and doing Nitya Karma. Of course, Nitya Karma is always relevant, but things like that. It talks about Adhikaritvam, preparation. How can you say Adhikaritvam is not relevant? Well, in a certain sense, it makes sense. I mean, this is such a big book. He includes everything. So, in a sense, it follows the trend of the Upanishads to talk about Adhikaritvam sometimes after the knowledge has been given. And so here we've had some fine examples of the vision, and then the Adhikaritvam and Dharma Jigyasa comes, and that's okay. That's not the placement, is not the problem. But reading through it, I feel like we've had the occasion to focus on this in great detail at other times, and then there will be also further occasions to focus on this. So from that standpoint, we'll suspend it for now, and if need be, we'll come back to it. That's not a problem, because each section seems to be holding its own, somehow or the other. So now we go to section 6. And section 6, interestingly, has 6 verses. And it's got an interesting title as well. Ragatyaga Nirnayaha. Nirnayaha means decision, the ascertainment, and the internal, what's it called? Sankalpa. Nirnaya here means an intention, a strong ascertainment followed by an intention of what? Tyaga. What is Tyaga? Giving up, letting go. But letting go of what? Raga. Raga includes Dvesha. Ragatyaga Nirnayaha. Decision to let go of ragas. Decision to let go of ragas and dveshas together. And of course, that's just one meaning. Why is that only one meaning?
Because he plays with words.
Exactly. Because he is a wordsmith. And he makes sure that there is a slight pun which is the opposite meaning of what he intends. Not the opposite meaning, but the same meaning put from a different standpoint. Because you see, you can give up ragadveshas from 2 standpoints. You can give up ragadveshas from the standpoint of saying, I hate ragadveshas and I'm going to give them up. So when you say, I hate ragadveshas and I'm going to give them up, it's the famous last words as far as the ragadveshas are concerned, because there is a kind of, it's not an organic development, there is a an enforced giving up. Because this is what I have to do. I'm a Vedantin, and all ragadveshas go. But where will they go? They have nowhere to go. They're still here. But there's a pressure to appear as though one has no ragadveshas, And so you talk to such a person, a lot of interesting posturing comes out, I am above and beyond everything. Yeah. I don't want anything at all. No desires at all. How can you live like that? No desires? No. How can you live like that? What is that? It's the years of tapas and training. And because of these years of training, there's nothing happening at all. There's a to-let sign here, empty, for rent, And so such a person is just one small step away from, from completely flipping out, literally. Because there's so much suppressed, there's not that healthiness. There has to be some kind of a mental and emotional health that's necessary even to give up. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a giving up, where you're fighting with yourself, and where this giving up is fraught with all kinds of, gimmickry. We don't want gimmickry. And, one time I went somewhere, and this was one of the times earlier that, Pujya Swamiji was in the hospital for some procedure long ago. A small one, and so there were a lot of people waiting outside, and then we were waiting to see him and see if the you could bring him back to the ashram the same day or something like that. And then the doctor said, everything is fine. We went and saw him, he was doing fine, and they said, let him remain, you come, let him just rest here. You come back after 2 or 3 hours, let him rest, and he's going to sleep now. Because the doctors also knew that once Swamiji goes to the ashram, he'll start taking classes. And so this was like an enforced rest. They said, let him stay, you come back. It was, I think, in the afternoon. And they said, you come back in the evening and then we'll see. And so he was sleepy, and so everybody let him sleep. So, and he went off to sleep even as we were there. And then we all came out. And then, there were some other people who came to see him, and they were told he's sleeping. And immediately, the decision was, let's just go party. Let's just go do something which we've never done before, and we can never do it ever, because this is how it is. We have to go indulge. And the hospital where he was happened to be on a street, on a busy street with lots of attractions on either side, food-based attractions, and so people just got crazy and fought with each other deciding where to eat. So it wasn't it wasn't like, okay, we have to stay here for 3 more hours, let's pick up something to eat and come back because it's expedient. But it became some kind of a, no, you cannot have your way because I have been at the ashram longer than you and I'm therefore more deprived. That kind that kind of a fest. And then part of it is because the lifestyle itself, the training is such that there is some things that we have to, you can't sort of say let the giving up come. This is a kind of a thing. It can't be, you have to be in the middle. You can't say when I give up, so what if it's after 3 lifetimes? That is too lackadaisical. That is coming from some tamas. And also the giving up, as we saw in the Vairagya section, it cannot be Rajasic Vairagya, like I have to give up right now, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to control all the bodily functions and I'm going to do this because this is what I have to do. That is a Rajasic giving up. And then as a result of that, it's just in the Tamasic giving up, no giving up is happening. In the Rajasic giving up is happening, but not sticking because the values and the organic, it's not from the grassroots. It's just coming from a sense of, trying to compete and show off how much one can give up. There is something to the training of giving up and the training that's given in ashrams and other places. And the training is, also brings out the rajas in the beginning, because that's how one goes towards the training. How else? Because this is the rajasic being, restless and running around, and is told to have vairagya, and it's an enforced vairagya because life in the ashram is deliberately kept simple, starting with the food. There's not a lot of gourmet flavors in the works. And so therefore it's simple, so that the after a while all the sense organs get disciplined. So that is, and we have to approach that giving up satvikally. And also if we see in the various ashrams, that kind of a disciplined giving up is not completely effective unless and until it is accompanied by knowledge. So ragasya tyagaha, one meaning, 6 TP, simple, Shashti Tatpurusha, that I give up what, the prejudices and preferences that I have been carrying. Then we can also take 7 TP, rage tyagaha. So the desire to give up, the decision of the desire to give up. Generally we don't come across 7 TP so much, It's a rare thing. So rage tyagaha with reference to raga, with reference to ragadveshas, the desire to give up. And what is the difference between the first two meanings? The first meaning is the desire to give up, and the raga and dvesha become the subject or the object of the person's vairagya, giving up. And in the second instance, what did I say? Tyage ragah. Tyage ragah. So there, in the second instance, there is a raga for tyaga. So the raga and the tyaga go together in the sense that giving up of ragadveshas is only effective when there is the raga for tyaga, when there is the desire to give up for the sake of the knowledge. It's a very nice, wordplay. Tyage ragah, rage tyagah, both you can take. Ragasya tyagah. And so there is so the two go together, because this empty giving up, the desire to give up without anything as a goal there, to foresee, to take in, there is no goal. The giving up cannot be an end in itself. It has to be a means to an end. Because if the giving up is the end, then it is the end, simple. Because there is always repression. What is it for? What am I doing this for? Why have you made me, eat bland dal and rice for 50 years? Why am I doing this? There should be some purpose. And that purpose is to understand vairagya and to see what this vairagya is doing for me to prepare me for this knowledge. So therefore he says, right at the outset, that this desire to give up must be accompanied by the very desire to renounce. So, giving up desires must be accompanied by the desire to give up. See, that's the pun. Yeah. Giving up desires must be accompanied by a strong desire to give up, otherwise it is not going to work. And that desire is either the initiative and it's also the viveka that this giving up is the backdrop for my gaining the knowledge. So then he, of course, in his own humorous way, the whole section unfolds. And he says, who are the objective ones, who are the vairagis, who are the ones who have truly given up. Let us see. Na virakta dhanaistyaktaha. Tyaktaha. Na virakta dhanaistyaktaha. Na virakta digambaraha. Vishesharakta swapade. Te virakta mata mama. Yeah. Na virakta dhanaistyaktaha. Na virakta digambaraha. Vishesharakta swapade. Te virakta mata mama.
te virakta mata mama.
Yeah. So, dhanaihi tyakta, tyakta, dhanaihi means from the wealth or through the wealth, those who have abandoned or gained vairagya through letting go of the wealth, in my view, mata mama, na viraktaha te. They are not dispassionate at all. They are not vairagis. What? They've given up all their money, so what? They'll make more. That's why they gave it up. They'll make more money and they know that more than anything else. And that's why they gave it up. No, they are not making any more money. They have given it up. Still their vairagya is not complete because it's not directed towards something else. It's become, just a thing in itself. It's not a means, it's an end. It's not complete. Then what? Then some people give up the wealth and other people give up what they are wearing. Digambaraha. Given up clothes. Yeah. Dik eva ambaram yasya digambaraha. Means the one for whom the directions are the shirts and the jeans, pants. They are clothed by the directions. It's a polite way of saying they are not clothed at all. Yeah. Digambaraha. These are the Jain monks. They don't wear a stitch, nothing. There is a section of Jain monks who don't wear anything. And even in the Hindu tradition, there is a particular kind of extreme babas called Naga babas. Naga means naked babas. So they just roam around just like that, without a stitch on their bodies. So regardless of whether someone has given up the money or someone else has given up the clothes, they are also not vairagis. It's really extreme to give up the clothes. But he says, mata mama, in my view, they are not really the ones who have tyage ragaha. And raga, rage tyagaha. Rage tyagaha means there is a desire to give up. Tyage ragaha, means both are similar. I'm not exactly sure how to show the difference. It will come out in the verses itself. So there is a great desire to have something, and that something being the motivation of the desire to give up is the correct kind of a desire. And so here, ironically, paradoxically, the people who in his opinion are the ones that are the true giver-uppers, they have a special raga. And what is that raga? For self-knowledge, to abide in themselves. So they have Tyagasya raga, they have desire to give up. But they also have a desire to give up because that's the only way of abiding in oneself. The ones who give up money are not abiding in themselves. They are abiding in perhaps the fame of having given up or so many other things. We don't know what they are abiding in, but it's not the desire to abide in the self. Those who give up clothes are also not the same. They are not necessarily. There might be some people, there are some sages called abadhutas, which could be such people who don't wear clothes and they are beyond everything and they are very wise. But he's not talking of them. He's talking of the mentality of certain groups to give up clothes and walk around without clothes and think that they have given up a lot. But they also fall short because that giving up of all desires must be motivated by the desire to abide in oneself. So all desires are given up, including the desire for the self? No. Except for the desire of the self. all desires are given up through the desire for the self. This is a very nice way of talking about it. It's like when there is a thorn in the foot. On the sole of the foot, sometimes you walk and there's a little thorn or something that comes, and to remove that thorn you need another thorn or a sharp instrument. So only a thorn can remove another thorn. And the same idea it is here. So to give up the desires, a tivra, an intense desire must be there. And what is that desire? That desire is for Atma. So the desire motivated by the desire for Atma, that, so all the desires are culled into the desire for Atma. And then those desires are not just given up, but they are subsumed into the desire for Atma. That is the best and the healthiest way of giving up, a very sattvic way. So, dhanaihi virakta, so he talks about the money first, because in the Hindu tradition, philanthropy is very highly valued. So building of hospitals and these places for pilgrims to rest and so many things, giving up money is very highly valued, and we see even in the Upanishads. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is one Janashruti, one king who thinks he knows Vedanta. Very interesting. And a sage comes to his house, his palace, and then he says, I'm very happy to receive you, but I also know quite a bit. And the sage tells him, you don't know anything until you know what Raikva knows. Who is this Raikva? Where is he? Nobody knows. And Janashruti, as soon as the sage goes, Googles Raikva and doesn't find anything. He's not on Google. He's not anywhere. And then Janashruti's, that conquering instinct is unleashed. And he just goes rushing and tries to find where this Raikva is. Sends the sentries and the guards to all directions. Find Raikva. Wanted Raikva. Now. Then, days go by. No news of Raikva. Then finally one of the guards comes and says that they found one man who with severe skin disease, sitting and scratching himself underneath an abandoned chariot in the middle of the forest. That chariot had become his home. And then he was sitting there scratching himself, and upon being asked, are you Raikva? He didn't say yes or no. So he neither confirmed it nor denied it. And so the king was very desirous of this knowledge. So he takes 9 elephants, each one carrying all the palace jewels, the coffers of the kingdom, and all the gold and silver, every kind of wealth, and goes to the forest barefoot to meet this teacher, which the sage said, until you know what he knows, you don't know anything. So he goes, and if he is really surprised to see the teacher, he doesn't show it. And with great reverence he says, the wealth of my kingdom I lay at your feet. Please teach me what you know. Raikva refuses. He says, he tells the soldiers that have come with all this paraphernalia on top of the elephants. I mean, imagine what one elephant, what it can carry. 9 elephants weight. Huge, along with the elephants, So here is a truckload of things, keep the truck also, like that. We're not just going to empty the truck, you keep the truck also. Along with the truck, you can have everything. And Raikva laughs. He says, you think that this is going to tempt me to teach you? If you think that you're going to buy me off with all your, wealth, I am not impressed. Go back before I throw a stone and, chase all these people out. And he talks to the soldiers and says, turn back, turn back, turn back. And he makes such a horrifying picture that they all get scared and run away. And the king also goes back with a heavy heart. Of course, there's more to the story, but we are not going to do that now. And, that shows something. That shows that this wealth, the giving up of the wealth, here the king was not motivated by truly the desire to know. It had become a conquest. I should know what he knows, and maybe he knows a mantra, maybe he knows some secret. He's going to tell me, and of course everything costs money, and I'm going to buy this off. You see, so when he goes the first time, after that, he goes much more humbled, and then the teaching takes place. But this is what the whole thing is. So the Upanishads talk about this, how this wealth is not going to give you, giving up of the wealth is not going to give you knowledge, unless that knowledge is already there. That discernment should be there. And another example, Yagyavalkya and Maitreyi dialogue. Yagyavalkya tells Maitreyi that, between you and Katyayani, the other wife, I have divided all my wealth. And he was a very rich fellow. So you can sit for 7 generations and eat, it will still be there. You won't have any problem. You don't have to go on the dole after I've gone. You don't have to stand in line to collect unemployment. You don't have to find a job. You don't have to do anything. It's all there. You're going to be a very rich lady. It's in your name. And you're going to be very well taken care of. But I'm off, And she asks a very important question to him. She says, all this wealth that, you're leaving me, and you say you are going for what? Amritam. Amritam means that unchanging wealth of the self-wealth. And you are going for that and giving, heaping everything, all this on to me. So, that for which you are leaving all this, will I get Amritam with the wealth? And then he says, Na vittena asha asti amritasya. There is no hope, And here also, even though the giving up of the wealth has been highlighted, it's highlighted from a particular standpoint, in the sense that Yagyavalkya knew what he was doing. Not only Yagyavalkya knew what he was doing because he was giving up the wealth properly with the idea of abiding in the self. Maitreyi also knew what was the proper way of giving up. That's why she asked the question, and he was honest enough to say yes. Otherwise he could have said, he was honest enough to say no, otherwise he could have said yes and gone off. But he said no, and so she made him sit down right there and teach her what he knows. And so therefore, the giving of the wealth has a place, but it is not coming from a place of ego. This is what is called in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Asuri, Daivasura Sampatti. The Asuric way of giving up. Nobody is like me. Look how much philanthropy I can do. Look at all these things I can give up. Me, I'm the first to give up. So that is a very rajasic tendency. And so he says, Dhanaihi tyaktaha, those who are relieved of their money for such reasons, they are not viraktaha. They are not without raga. They have a lot of raga. They are not free of ragadveshas. And then what to talk of? Digambaraha. They may be ascetics. They may be roaming naked in the forest and other places. But they are not, they are goal-less. Because in most of those things there is no teaching there. The sannyasa most of the time becomes an end rather than a means. In our tradition it is both an end and a means. So vividisha sannyasa means vidvat sannyasa end. There are many types of sannyasa. I think we counted 6-7 types. But these are the two main types. Vividisha is Veditum Ichha, the desire to know. Sannyasa, giving up. So the giving up with the desire to know the self, to abide in the self, is a valid way of giving up in our Shastra. And then the other sannyasa is for people who already know and then they want to give up, to just revel in the knowledge, like Yagyamalkya, I can't think of anyone else, in the Upanishads. So his is called Vidvat Sannyasa, the one who is already knowing, but then once you know, you don't feel like you can either continue to engage in action, but some people feel, why? Let me just live, somewhere by myself. And so that is Vidvat Sannyasa. So these are the two main kinds. Then there are other things, Dandi and Tridandi, and then there is Bahudaka, means people who are living by the waters. And then Kutichaka. Kutichaka means you are too old or too sick to take care of yourself. So you build a little in-law unit behind your house and live there, and the family members take care of you, but you live alone. They do some minimal food and whatever cleaning is needed, they take care of you, but you are living alone and you're a sannyasi. And then there is this apat sannyasa, 911 sannyasa, like when one knows that one has very little time to live. There is a terminal diagnosis and the doctor says you will be lucky if you survive for 3 months, and then that person can, you don't even need to search for a person to ordain you. This is beautiful. You don't need anything. You just, take the 5 elements as if there is a teacher who can do that, that's fine. If there is nobody, you take the 5 elements as your witness. And then, you just, and the sun and the moon as witness, and say, I am giving this up. I'm giving everything up. I'm a sannyasi now because I want, this is the last, desire I have, and so I'm going to just give up. So that is called apat sannyasa. With apat sannyasa, because it's a new birth, sometimes the disease gets better also. The death sentence that was there, Lord Yama, who was hovering, says, okay, I think I'll give this person a break, because they have made this very big commitment, so they need their life to continue the study or something like that. One time it happened. One person, young man, had 4th stage, some kind of a cancer. And then they said, no more. He was newly married. And he said, apat sannyasa, gave everything up. And then miraculously, there were 5-6 tumors. They all receded, except one, which was fortunately operable. And they operated it, removed it, and after some radiation, chemo, he was fine. And now what to do, Young wife following him everywhere. This is a problem. So, 911 sannyasa, we can't take it so lightly. It has a very important effect. And so, there are various kinds of, sannyasa means samyak nyasa, giving up properly, that's what it means. But there is various kinds of initiations, like these Digambara and everything, that is also a kind of a sannyasa. But then, if it is not accompanied by that sam or the shubha ichha, so the desire to give up all ichhas is incumbent upon the shubha ichha to gain the self, which is of course already gained. It's an as though gain. And so he says, without a goal-less sannyasa is fraught with wrong kinds of giving up, and in his opinion, he says, that is not giving up at all. So then, Vishesha Rakta means, ironically, the proper giver-uppers, who are the most proper giver-uppers? The most proper giver-uppers are Vishesha Raktaha Swapade. So they have great raga for the goal, pada, goal, which is their own self. So Vishesha Raktaha, a special delight a special desire for the self, specially longing for the self. And they are the ones who are really ready to give up everything, even though they may still be having some possessions like money and clothes. This is very important, yeah. So they may be having some, everybody can have something. It's not, you can own a lot of things, but there is no possessive, relationship with those things that one possesses. And so they may be having clothes, they may be having money, but primarily they have this great desire for the self, which makes them proper candidates of giving up. So if you have a great desire for the self, you are already virakta, according to him. So all this show of, giving up money, giving up clothes, giving up titles, etc., they are empty because they are not accompanied by the desire to abide in the self, where the end is not you. The end is something else other than you. So if you are just having a desire to give up without the proper end, it is not giving up at all, according to him. And then he talks about few more kinds of people who give up. Who are they? Chaurastya janti geham swam bhaye naiva na bodhataha jarastya janti geham swam Kame naiva na bodhataha Kruddhastya janti geham swam Prativadi virodhataha Ruddhastya jati geham swam Rodhe naiva na bodhataha. So 4 kinds of people also give up. What do they give up? They give up their lodgings. Geham swam, their own house. Oh, they're giving up their own house? That's a great thing if you give up your own house. How come we are not lauding them and commending them? How come we are not doing that? Well, let's see who they are. The first category of people are Chauraha. Chauraha means Choraha. Thieves. Thieves are afraid to stay in their own house. Why? Because, they have something to hide. What do they have to hide? Other people's property. Yeah. So they have to purchase a storage unit with their ill-gotten gains, put all the stash there, and also live in the storage unit and pull down the shutter. And then when no one is looking, they'll peek left, look to the left, look to the right. They have to just be afraid. Like all the carnivorous grazing animals. If you look at the carnivorous animals, they're eating. What are they eating? Other animals, vegetarians. They are also vegetarian. They eat only vegetarian animals. So they are predators, and they are also predated upon. So you look at these new things, these meerkats and these hyenas. When they are eating, and when they are moving around, they are all shifty-eyed, ready to hiss, growl, swipe, and they are always afraid because they know what is fear. They make other people afraid, other animals afraid, so they know that they will also be predated upon by bigger cats. Meerkat it's meerkat, yeah. That's It's as good as a little house, pussycat in the house, And a meerkat knows I'm a meerkat, and there are big cats, mountain lions and other big things that will make me into a, not even lunch, a little snack. And so it has to always be afraid. Whereas those who don't predate, they don't prey upon other animals, they look you directly in the eye. Cows, goats, all these, very interesting, So, but here these Chauraha are predators. So they prey upon other people's property, and so they don't feel safe at home, because anytime there could be a knock on the door. And who is that? Who is that? Open up, it's the police. That's what it is. So then they don't stay at the house. And like sannyasis, they spend 3 nights in different places. Because sannyasis do that, 3 days in different place, in one village, in another village, like this. So these Chauraha, the thieves also, they don't stay in one place for too long for the fear of being, apprehended. They are apprehensive of being apprehended, and so they just, they are always on the move. And sometimes they wear sannyasi dresses also in order to do their nefarious things. This has happened. When? Recently? In which should I read Times of India? Where did this news item come? Read Ramayana. Don't read Times of India. So, this is ancient news. Ravana, the 10-headed monster, 10 heads because ego, that much ego he had, wants to abduct Sita, the wife of Lord Rama. And it's strange, the motive for this abduction I have never understood, because he had a wife called Mandodari who was exactly the lookalike of Sita. So it's not like he was trying to get something that he didn't have. He already had a wife who looked exactly like Sita, and apparently, it's just like sometimes strangers look alike. They were not twins or anything. And apparently they looked very much alike, and there was only one difference in the footprints. Like we have fingerprints and the sole of the footprints. So Sita had a lotus on the ball of her foot, whereas Mandodari had a insignia of a bird, a crow or a bird. That was the only difference between them. And so I've never understood why this fellow, maybe it was out of revenge or I don't know what it was, or he thought he could be a collector, he could have a pair of them, because sometimes, when you have one rare stamp and you find that there is one more, then the desire to have that stamp also comes, And so he goes to abduct her. First he takes the help of, these other asuras to cause a distraction. So Sita sees something moving in the bushes, something like a lightning. Oh, golden deer, Rama, let's go bring it alive, I want to keep it as a pet. And Rama says, who has heard? Have you heard of something called golden deer? It's not there. No, please go get it. And Rama goes, leaving the brother Lakshmana to take care of Sita. And there, and immediately Rama knows that this golden deer is not really a deer, because when he pursues it, it turns into a Rakshasa. He kills it, and as the Rakshasa is dying, he mimics in Rama's voice, help me, Sita, Lakshmana, I am being killed. And he dies off. And so Sita gets very agitated and tells, we both need to go. No, it's too dangerous, you stay, I will go. And Lakshmana doesn't want to go, but then he puts a kind of a magic circle and says, don't come out of this circle, because as long as you're in the circle, it will protect you. And then Lakshmana goes in search of Rama, thinking that he may be, dying somewhere or something is happening. And using this little distraction, Ravana makes a grand entry dressed in orange. Yeah. Bhavati bhikshan dehi. Oh, mother of the house, please give me some bhiksha. And then what happens? Sita what is that? Like sometimes when you have difficulty for older people to reach for things, there is this reacher. You go like that. What is that called? Reacher. Yeah. So there is a long stick with a little pair of tongs at the end, and then you operate the tongs with a little lever in the beginning, a very simple electronic device for a change, and then you just go and reach things. So since Sita is not allowed to cross, she reaches for the reacher and puts the bhiksha and then gives it long distance over the line. And he says, this is the way to give bhiksha. This is extremely irreverent. You can't give it over the threshold. So either you come out or I come in. And he knew he couldn't come in because he would be burnt to ashes. And she had been told by Lakshmana, don't let anybody in. And so she goes out and he drags her by the hair and takes. Correct? So then, these thieves come in sannyasi dress sometimes to fool the people. And then, also, we have to also look into the fact that there are some quote-unquote people in sannyasi dress who say, I will give you prosperity, I will give you abundance. So they stay in a village and then spoof all the people and then, get up and leave with all their ill-gotten gains. One such person was arrested in Atlanta and now he is permanently behind the bars. And this person was making, charging the people homas and to do for their own welfare. And let's say, how much will a homa cost? $300, let's say. So the person would gladly give, okay, please do it for my family. Somebody is sick, somebody is unhappy, studies are not going well, so many reasons. And then what would he do? He would note down the credit card number and every month he would help himself to 15, 20, 30, 40, sometimes twice a month, dollars from that particular credit card. Something like that he would do to see if they would notice. I mean, who looks at the bills? It's already efficient enough if we pay them. That's enough. More than that, nobody even looks. Those days are gone where the paper bills, first of all, there is no paper bill. Everything is online. So he would see if anybody was vigilant or not, and when he knew this is a safe person, and so like this, he had taken $25,000, $30,000 from people and was continuing to, do that. And then finally he was caught and put behind bars. So even though they may have, they may look like they have the desire to give up, they may appear to not be in one place. And the thieves have a lot in common with sannyasis, lot in common. Sometimes the dress, like I told you, and this whole practice of not staying in one place for too long and not taking on anything, no guilt, no hurt. Even a thief also, no guilt, no hurt. I didn't hurt anybody. I am akarta. Sannyasi says, thief also says, I didn't do that. I am also akarta. I am akarta. I have no doership. No, I have no doership. And yesterday we talked about all the ways we can rationalize, Here also the thief also says, I have no doership. I am beyond the law. Sannyasi says, I am beyond all rules. And this one also says, I am also beyond all rules. The first one says, I am beyond all rules because of the knowledge and the lifestyle. The second one says, the thief says, I am beyond all rules because I have not yet been caught. That's the only reason. So there is a lot of, see, this is very, very astute example because there is a lot of similarities between sannyasis and thieves, Sannyasis also take what they want, like they take only what they want, that's the difference, but just one word only. Why are we just, parsing words, splitting hairs? Yeah, thieves also take what they want plus more. Yeah. And so, the difference is sannyasis take what they need, thieves take what they want. That's the difference. So that is one more similarity. And this wanting to be incognito, one more similarity. Because no thief, unless they are dumb, offenders, they don't put their ill-gotten gains on social media and Facebook. They don't say, wow, what a heist today, I really excelled even myself. And that, and that conspirer, the co-conspirer, best friend, BFF, best friend forever. Thank you, bro. They don't put such messages on the media. In fact, they don't court any kind of fame. They are just, viraktaha from all fame. They don't want to appear on Google. They don't want to do anything. And what do they want to do? Just skulk around quietly. Do their job quietly, without a thought, is anybody noticing? In fact, they don't want anybody to notice. And without a thought of, any kind of returns for this, nothing. So the thieves are also like that. They don't want fame. They don't want to be noticed. And they have a great desire for aloneness. Aratihi jana samsadi. Aratihi means a dispassion for assemblies of people. Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter. Vivikta desha sevitvam. They only go for uninhabited places. Aratir jana samsadi. Why? Because with reference to jana samsadi, assemblage of people, there is arati, dispassion. They don't like to be in groups. So too the thieves, they don't like to be in groups. They don't, covet groups. They don't covet company. They love to be incognito. And they love to not be famous, because the only way they can be famous is through infamy. And yes, there are one or two, we are not talking of Chauraha, the thieves who have narcissistic personality disorder. They like to advertise and be noticed. We are not talking of them. We are talking of the average thief who shies away from the media and publicity. And so too the sannyasi. Sannyasi is not doing, is not giving up for the sake of media. And if the sannyasi does some seva somewhere and helps some people, the sannyasi is not going to put on Facebook, I have helped so many people. Yeah, in fact, sannyasi should not, in my view, have a Facebook account at all. Yeah, but that's my own view, okay? Yeah, no offense. And so then, this is not something you tweet about. Today I had, I demonstrated great vairagya in such and such a place. Today I felt like cuffing this fellow, but I did not. So along with, I had vairagya, along with titiksha. Good for me. I give myself 2 stars. No, this is not the way. The sannyasi is supposed to, have a great, distaste for all this fame, etc. And the sannyasi is also told to not cultivate, not overtly try to cultivate discipleship and following. This is what we learn in our training. You don't hanker after disciples, then you become a slave. You don't keep saying, oh, if I do this, then I'll get more students. That's not the idea. And likewise, the thief is extremely wary of anyone offering to be an apprentice. Because who to trust? See, there it's a different motive. Forget the motive, but look at the similarities. Yeah. So some people come and say, Ustad. Ustad means you master. Yeah. Ustad, you please teach us also. No. Go away. Yeah, because, between thieves, the contract between thieves is not one of trust. It is one of expediency. Yeah. Like, okay, I'm getting something and immediately the contract is broken. So very reluctantly, the sannyasi takes on disciples, and very reluctantly, the thief takes on apprentices. You see so many similarities. And the sannyasi wants to be alone and unbothered. The thief also wants to be alone and unbothered. The sannyasi likes to be incognito, not to be found out at all. The thief also says, better I'm not found out. Yeah. So, and both of them leave their house, their respective houses. And so what is the difference? Let us read the next line. So, Chauraha Tyajanti, the sannyasi has what? The sannyasi also leaves the house, the thief also leaves the house. Chauraha tyajanti geham. Geham means house. Swam, their own house. It doesn't count if you leave somebody else's house. That's a relief because you have overstayed your visit. So here it's your own house, okay? Yeah. So when you leave your own house, why do the thieves, plural here, chauraha, tyajanti, why do they leave their house? Bhayena eva. Why bhaya? Of being caught. Yeah. So they leave their house because they have done so much that even though they are pretending to be akartas, all their ill-gotten, gains will catch up with them. Their ill karma, bad karma will catch up with them in the form of the boys in blue. That is what it is. Who are the boys in blue? Yeah, the law enforcement. So now we can say girls also in blue, boys and girls in blue will come anytime. And the choraha, the thieves will get the blues. So then they run away before they are beaten up black and blue by the authorities. They just run away. Bhayena eva. Only. Eva means only. Bhayena eva. Bhayena eva. Only due to the fear of survival, fear of their lives, fear of not being caught. Na bodhataha. Bodhataha panchamyarthe tasil. So the taha, that pratyaya is called tasil, and it is used in the fifth case here. Bodhataha, not because of their knowledge. Bodha, not because of what they know. Thieves also abandon the house, their own house. Sannyasis, the correct giver-uppers, also abandon their house, and despite the overwhelming similarities between the lifestyle of a thief and a sannyasi, what is the difference? One is petrified, and the other is what? Ishvarified. That's all it is. Yeah. One is petrified, frightened at every cost, can't trust anybody. So one from total no trust, complete fear, one gives up, and the other one gives up with complete trust. No fear. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful connection. Both are giving up. Both are adopting a kind of a livelihood. And, a kind of a, what's that, not livelihood, lifestyle of incognito, alone. And, both don't stay in one place for too long. All this is there. But the one arising from fear and the one arising from no fear. The other arising from no fear. So this is what is the beautiful thing. Na bibheti kadachaneti. Because the sannyasi is completely Ishvarified, married to Ishvara, completely in Ishvara's order, and that Shraddha and the trust is so much, let whatever happen, what may happen, let it happen. Yad bhavitam tad bhavatu, let it happen, whatever is supposed to happen, let it happen. Prarabdham ihatu bhujyatam. That karma which gave rise to this body is to be endured. Bhujyatam means is to be endured. You have to eat the prarabdha at every meal. You have whatever you're eating, dal, roti, sabji, and then little prarabdha. You have to eat it at yeah, you have to ingest it. You can't overcome it. Yes, a little bit by prayer and all, you can perhaps neutralize some of it, but still there is a lot there that has to be endured. And how does the sannyasi, by sannyasi here I mean the person with the correct kind of vairagya, the correct thought and practice, both. That such a person, how does she or he go through prarabdha? We saw that in Pujya Swamiji's life, especially towards the end of his days. And when he talked on his birthday, this past August, on August 15th, he said, one thing I can say is that I have taken in everything that has been given to me without resisting it. That was a big thing to say. And I have endured whatever has been in my share with grace. He said that. And so like this, the sannyasi goes about life with complete trust. So supposing one day something happens which one doesn't like, it's okay. When something happens one doesn't want, it's okay. So the body of course ages, and the body gets sick, the body gets tired, the body dies. The identification of the I, which is called bodha here, is elsewhere. It is not with the people, because people come and go, body comes and goes. And since the identification, since the I is placed in the proper place where it should be, there is no fear, there is only trust, because the vision is Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, all this is Ishvara. And in that vision, in that unshakable understanding of vision, this body is also included. Let happen what may, it's okay. So that's why the sannyasi gives up the house, because what's the point in staying there? And the sannyasi takes to a lifestyle by oneself, because really the person has a value for that lifestyle, or has understood that this lifestyle is is just mimicking Brahman, because all there is one, and there is no there is no second. And then that is the trust of the sannyasi, contrasted with the trust, the mistrust, the rank dire mistrust and insecurity of the Choraha. So Narahari says, don't go by their actions, don't look at the similarity of the actions, because otherwise you'll be making a mistake. And then what? Jaraha tyajanti geham swam. Jaraha means paramours. Paramours? That's the word, yeah, paramours. Yeah. So let's say two people have fallen in love with one another, operative word being fallen, and fallen helplessly in love with one another, and they decide to spend a lifetime together. What's wrong? Nothing wrong, good for them, except what? Some kind of a parental dispute. Their parents and their parents' and their parents' have not talked to each other since 1442. This is like Romeo and Juliet. It has to end in a tragedy, correct? A tragic love story. And we also in India have our own versions of Romeo and Juliet. There is that Heer Ranja and so many things like that. So these are all, what is that? Celebrated lovers who were forced to give up their life, because they could not get their love. So stories that end in tragedy. And so like this, there are certain barriers to people coming together. There are barriers because of parental disputes, familial feuds, and what else? Parental disapproval, or they're coming from vastly differing social hierarchies. This is what was there in Romeo and Juliet. And so like this, vastly differing social not Romeo and Juliet, some other one. And so because of this, they cannot come together. And what happens as a result? They have to go to Las Vegas. What's in Las Vegas? Chapels, yeah. Wedding chapels where you can just get married, no questions asked. And then after that you have to be on the lam for some time. Yeah, you can't come back. You can't come back. You have to wait till that disapproval, and in India these things are taken very seriously. And there's one horrid village council called the Khap Panchayat, self-appointed, really horrid. And what they do is they are the moral police of this particular morality of the young people in the village. And so if two people love one another and they want to get married, they have to run away and then get married. And even if they have run away and gotten married, and let's say one of them is spotted in 3 villages that side, or in some other city, Then they are captured, dragged back, and executed publicly. This is not legal, but it happens. This is what is called honor killing, because this is bringing down the morality of the whole village. How could you do this to us? That kind of a thing. And so, what will the young lovers do? They will leave their house. At an appointed time, each one will leave their house. They'll have a secret place of assignation, and then they they drive over to Las Vegas or some safe place where they can get married, and then they can never come back, especially if these people are waiting for them. So they have also left their house. Sannyasi also has left his house, her house. What is the difference? You know? Both have left their house because of a desire. What is the desire? The desire to be one. Yeah, the two lovers also want to be one. There should be no space between us. We are one. And we have to join ourselves. There is no space between us. Nothing should come between us. That oneness is what we desire, and that oneness we couldn't have in our town, village. So for the sake of that oneness, we have departed from the house, the lovers say. The sannyasi also says the same thing. Yeah, that oneness is not available in this house. You know, I also want that oneness. I'm sick of divisions. I'm sick of everything coming in the way of this oneness. And I too am leaving the house in search of oneness. So both of them have kama, both of them have desire for the oneness. And then both of them leave their house. Both of them are vagabonds, going everywhere and living anyhow for the sake of this oneness. And both of them, once they leave their house, they cannot come back. Look at the overwhelming similarities. Yeah. Both of them cannot come back. Sannyasi doesn't return because there is no return. It is only as though return. And then the lovers cannot return. What is the difference? Huh? What's the difference?
Desire for each other.
Yeah, desire for each other versus desire for the one and the only. And each one will say, I only want the one and the only. You are my one and only. Here for the sannyasi also says, you are my one and only to Ishvara. Yeah, that is the difference. Sannyasi is going after that truth which runs the world, which runs the Jagat, which is manifest as the Jagat, which runs this body-mind-sense complex. In fact, which is the indweller of this body-mind-sense complex. So sannyasi is trying to bridge a gap that is really not there. And the lovers are trying to bridge a gap that can never be bridged. We'll take a short break, come back. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Yeah, 10-15 minutes stretch and come back. Enjoy the snow. We are having snow here. Yeah.
How many thoughts of that tea?
Yes, you read the mind.